Well, hello, good morning, everyone. It is an early morning and another week of college football. We're going to bring you everything that you need to know to get your week started. Let me go ahead and bring on my current co-host here, Mr. Justin Hicks. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great, Tommy. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. We're going to jump right on into this. We ain't going to waste no time this morning, so everyone can start getting settled in and getting ready for the Saturday. We got a pretty good long show going, so let's go ahead and jump into some previous scores from last week. You had Clemson, who got the job done against Miami, 42-17. A lot of people thought Miami would get this job done, but it didn't happen. Miami just simply did not show up. You got a number one team in Clemson who's looking possibly national championship contendership. So I don't know, I bet you Miami's pretty disappointed about that. Next up, you had Alabama and Ole Miss. This ended up being a high-scoring game. Ole Miss Rebels end up putting up 48 points on the Big Heavy Tide. But Bama gets it done, 63-48, Alabama. Not to mention that quarterback's looking like a superstar at Alabama. He had 417 passing yards. Next up, you had the Tennessee Volunteers at the Georgia Bulldogs. Vols have been getting their asses handed to them by Georgia for about as long as I can almost remember here in definitely recent years.
This was year two for them, they felt. This was the year.
Yeah, this was supposed to have been their year, of course, but no excuse, Vols fans. I hear this every year from y'all that this is y'all's year. They actually look really good this year, better than previous years. They end up at number 14 spot, taking on the number 3 Dogs. They fall. Georgia 44, Tennessee 21. Next up, you had Florida, Texas A&M. Well, lo and behold, shocked a lot of people. Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies roll into the swamp and get it done, 41-38. And this is kind of funny after coming after their head coach bragging about they was going to have full capacity. And if they're whooping ass now, wait till the swamp was full. Well, that didn't happen. No, they didn't go into the swamp. My bad. They was at Texas A&M. They went at the swamp.
College Station.
Station.
I was
but still, a number 4 ranked Florida team who was supposed to have been has been damn impressive all year. I actually thought they still could slide. They still can win a national championship. They're not out of it. One loss don't put you out of it, but they just look like shit in that game compared to the way they look to me in other games.
They really did. Jimbo,
even though they scored 38 points, I figured they was going to get it done against Texas A&M.
Right.
Next up, you had the Fighting Irish and the very struggling Seminoles of Florida State. Florida State tried to put up some kind of fight in this. They put up more to fight than I thought they would, but Notre Dame, the Irish, gets it done, 42-26. Next up, you have the very shocking number 8 North Carolina versus Virginia Tech. This is another high-scoring game. The Tar Heels get it done, 56-45 in state, and keep that undefeated streak alive and shocking the nation right now how good they're looking. Next up, you had Arkansas with Auburn. A very, very controversial ending to this, whether or not it was a forward pass, whether or not whatever the case may be. But I hate to say it, but I believe that Arkansas got screwed on this one, but Auburn gets it done in a nail biter with the grace of God and a horseshoe up their ass.
You'll take the win though. You'll take it.
I guess we'll take it. 30-28. Or Auburn gets it done. BYU lays barely squeaks by UTSA. I don't know if Bossman watched that game or not, but he is a UTSA guy, and I can't believe number 15 BYU struggled that hard against them. Next up, you had Texas and Oklahoma, the Red River rivalry. This was a damn good game. It went into 4 overtimes. Yeah. OU gets it done, 53-45, and the Texans keep losing. I don't know. Texas keeps losing. I don't know what's going on. I said Texans, but it's Texas Longhorns. Next up, Texas Tech, Iowa State. Iowa State gets it done, 31-15. A couple more other little games. Let's see what's another big one maybe down here for people that are interested. South Carolina, Golly Womps, Vanderbilt, 41-7. That's no shocker there. You also had Duke, who beat Syracuse 38-24. That's kind of a shocker.
A little bit. Syracuse been struggling some, but I mean, like you said, it was kind of one of those games on the fringe. Anybody wins. So
I miss this game. I don't know if this is a typo or what, but they've got Mississippi State and Kentucky beats them 24-2. That's embarrassing considering how many times Mississippi State throws the damn ball.
Yeah, that's correct. I believe that's what I'd seen also, because I couldn't get that 2 out of my head with a Mike Lee Tran offense, and against Kentucky too, who was in a shootout a little bit with Ole Miss just the week before.
We have to talk about this. I'm pretty sure Bayou Jacks does not want to talk about it. I called it last week. I called the upset for Missouri over LSU. I picked Missouri by a field goal. I was off by 1 damn point.
Exactly.
One damn point.
I had to go back and look at the score in all honesty, because I was like, how close was he? And then he's a field goal. I said, well, I mean, they did a little bit better than you gave them credit for, but you still gave them credit for that win.
I did not think it would end up being in the 40s. I can tell you that, because it was 45-41 Missouri, and there ain't no way in hell I thought it was going to get up that high.
LSU just can't stop the bleeding right now. Former national or reigning national champ. Not gonna be that this year, no matter what.
No matter what, it ain't gonna happen. So, Mr. Jacks,
real men of genius.
Real men of genius. I got your ass on that one, buddy. We're going to move along to next week's. I do have a new award that I'm handing out, and that award goes to the SEC referees. I don't know what the hell happened, why they are so horrible, but the SEC has a tendency of having just terrible refereeing. I don't know if they need to be put through a better training program or what the case may be, but they make a lot of bad calls. A lot. And they have been known for it for a past couple of years, and they probably just screwed the Arkansas Hogs over there out of their win against Auburn. So,
and Arkansas looking good so far too. I mean, from compared to what they've had, but I agree with you. I actually didn't get a chance to watch a ton of that game, but at the end, near the end, I guess that's where it kind of came down to it. Tough break, Bo Nix doing a little bit of Bo-like things on a couple of runs there.
I know some people, like some fans, will use the excuse, well, Arkansas shouldn't have put themselves in a position to lose the game. But I'm not one of those. That was clearly a horrible call, and they have instant replay for this very damn thing, so you don't have to make these kind of shitty calls. So there was no excuse for it. Anybody could have seen that they got screwed out of that game. I know some Arkansas fans are pretty salty and say it's because we were down on the plains, and that ain't it. SEC officiating is just terrible, period.
It's all around.
That's all around. I said all the time, man. That the first game of the year I watched which was Auburn and Kentucky. There was nothing but bad calls in that both ways. They screwed Kentucky, I think, out of a touchdown. They screwed Auburn out of a pick six out of the end zone, running it back with some bullshit targeting call that wasn't even close to being targeted. Dude clearly used his shoulder, didn't even use his head. They're terrible, man. They're just terrible. So,
well, that's another thing too. I wonder if these bad calls, these horrific calls, what we're seeing, there's constant rule changes. And there's constant. I mean, we see it in the NFL also. There's just constant targeting can be looked at in about 3 or 4 different ways.
Right.
So I don't know if they're afraid to not throw a flag or something like that. But I agree. Big 12 also they've been pretty bad this year. But yeah, SEC, as you mentioned, they're notoriously bad. Now I got to wait and see today how they call in some. I mean, we got the granddaddy of them all today. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's a bowl game, but still, we'll see how that one goes. Do they go against Papa Saban or Kirby? You got to pick a side, it seems. But like you said, they're just bad on both ends. I don't know what the deal is, if it's constant rule changes or what.
I don't know. Let's go ahead and talk about a little bit of news wait a minute. We'll get to that later. Let's go ahead and take a commercial break real quick. For y'all that does not know, if you are a wrestling fan, we have many, like I am, and many others that follow these pages that are probably watching this right now. We have a couple of wrestling shows through that are brought to you by PinFall Productions. One of those wrestling shows, being one of mine, comes on every Thursday at 8 p.m. Me and the Moose Man, Gene Emerson, break down different things. This past week, we broke down the draft. Last night, I sat down. We have a new logo and a new intro. We'll be right back. That is the Total Nonstop Podcast, brought to you every Thursday at 8 p.m. Central.
Very cool introduction.
Thank you, sir. I put that one together last night. A little bit of my unfree time. I had to sit down. I did not like the other one that we had. I felt like it was too
right.
It wasn't up to the pinfall standards. If that was some little bullshit throw together intro, then it would have worked. But for pinfall standards, I wasn't happy with it, so I had to get something that was a little bit more up to beat with us. Yeah. So, let's see. Let's go over these current games. You had a game that was between Coastal Carolina and Louisiana. Coastal Carolina gets the win, 30-27. Thursday, you had a matchup that happened between Georgia State and Arkansas State. A high-scoring game. Arkansas State gets it done, 59-52. Friday matchups, you had a couple of big ones, a couple of ranked teams that happened. And Mr. Bayou Jacks took too long to get his picks to me, so you don't get in on these two games, sucker. I got you this week because I slipped last week, missed out on a few games, but I was on it this week. You had BYU at Houston. BYU 43, Houston 26. Their passing leaders, was that their quarterback that was the passing leader that had 400 yards?
Yep, Zach Wilson, 404 touchdowns.
Jesus.
Yeah, Zach looking like a stud out there with BYU.
And what's crazy, we just looked, too, when we went over the last week's scores, they struggled against USTA.
Yeah.
And then they come in here, and they come in here against Houston. They definitely put it back together, I guess, before this week came up.
Right. Makes you wonder about Dana Holgerson again in that hire. And I'm not knocking on him for, but there's a higher standard at Houston now with having Coach Herman a few years ago.
They did beat Alabama that one time, so they raised the bar around there.
Yeah. I mean, they were consistently good to great, just a few little things. They beat Oklahoma, and, it was just the one time they played. But, I mean, high-quality recruiting class, and then they go to Dana Holgerson.
Next up, you have another very shocking team, the undefeated SMU Mustangs at Tulane. SMU gets it done by a squeaker in overtime, 37-34. I just wonder how much longer they could hold on to this. I'm pulling for hard.
For SMU, after watching that 30 for 30 and stuff, that's a little bit before my time. The Pony Excess. Oh my gosh. you got to root for the guys, because these current students. Sonny Dykes has proven himself right now. He left California to go to SMU, Coach Sonny Dykes, and give his variation of the air raid offense, and seems to be working out. The first non-Power 5 school, conference school, to be 5-0 so far. So that's huge for that program. I believe Shane Buechele got about 378 passing yards yet again. So eking it out, but still winning. That's all that counts for them.
Yeah, Mr. Brandon, the Way Eagle. I guess I still didn't fix that damn shit. I could have swore I put an R on it a while ago. But we'll go ahead and just say what it really stands for. What a egotistic maniac. We'll put all that on that E and use that in Gus in short in terms. All right, let's move along. Next first game up, we have an ACC game, which is it's pretty much a rivalry game, I guess you would call it. You got Clemson in Georgia Tech, 11 a.m. ABC kickoff. Clemson is still number one. They have not lost this year. Georgia Tech's they're struggling as usual, as Georgia Tech does, trying to find a win or two. Mr. Jacks took Clemson. Of course, I took Clemson also. I just don't see Georgia Tech getting this done.
No, not now. Not at this point.
They'll give Clemson a little bit of trouble at the first quarter, second quarter or so, because they run that crazy ass offense that Georgia Tech runs, and Clemson don't see it all year except for usually from them. So,
well, I haven't watched Georgia Tech play, but are they still doing that triple option?
I think so.
I assume they are. I haven't seen them play yet.
I thought they were like it was a tradition there, like it was at Army and shit.
It may be. I haven't got to see them play, but I know Paul Johnson got fired or released, let go.
Oh, did he? Quit. I've not watched Georgia Tech this year.
Well, there's been no reason. I hate to say it, but there's been no reason to.
I'll watch them when they play certain teams I don't like Florida State or someone like that, and I want to see them upset them or something. But other than that, I usually don't watch them. Next up, you got another ACC game. You have Pittsburgh at the Fallen Hurricanes, who's coming off that loss from last week. Pittsburgh is kind of hit and miss. They're very inconsistent, and they have a good defense at times.
Yeah.
Their offense is not too much to brag about, I guess you could say, but I took Miami in this one. I think Miami ended up blowing them out.
Yeah, Miami definitely looking to rebound. I think they will. I think they will easily against Pitt.
Yeah, there's a possibility of that one. Next up, you have the jackass team of the year, in my opinion, that is just pissing me off. Number 15, Auburn takes on Will Muschamp and the South Carolina Gamecocks at South Carolina. That game's at 11 a.m. on ESPN. I did take Auburn here, but it's only because of team pride. Jax took Auburn for what reason, I don't know. He must have some faith in them or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's looking gleam over there at Auburn. I really hope that they just put the money together this year and they fire Gus Malzahn. It's got to the point that after 7-8 years, there's no more excuses. I feel that they can be produced. You've had 7 or 8 years. You're getting within the top 10 recruiting class every damn year.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's top 8, top 7, somewhere in there. You're grabbing a recruiting class every year. You're getting the quarterbacks. You're getting the talent. What? I don't understand what the problem is. Why can you not put it together?
I had a question. Chad Morris is their offensive coordinator this year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he's been pretty. I think he coached Arkansas. That was a dud. And he was also at SMU. He tried to bring him back, but no. But he's had a pretty good, consistent career as an OC. So could some of the blame go on Chad Morris?
I don't think it can. I don't know if I can put it on Chad in a way because
Gus is still there.
Right, it's still Gus. Well, the thing about it is that Gus has had a problem with turning over calling the plays. That's been his problem for years. When he gets a decent offensive coordinator, he wants to get too involved. This year, he is swearing up down he's not touching the plays. Well, I'm here to tell you, those 2 times they ran Bo Nix from the 6 looked just like a Gus damn call. He called something once and it didn't work, and he turned right around and called the same damn play right behind it. That's some Gus shit that Gus tries to pull.
Right.
It may be him not calling the plays, but it's still his playbook.
And that defense is a little lackadaisical, or have been against.
That defense looks like the worst Kevin Steele defense I've ever seen since he's been there.
It's not. I mean, how many did Arkansas rack up? 29.
Yeah,
29 points. That's just,
they got carved up the week before. So I mean, it's just their secondary's weak. To me, they don't have the size on the D line. It don't look like they got the size or the speed to come out to get to those gaps and shit. So, and I know Kevin Steele lost a lot of players last year, but man, you got to be able to. How was you not ready? Because you knew you was going to lose those players. How did you not already have someone to reload with?
Recruiting.
That's what I don't understand. And they get the players, but they suck. I don't know what it is. It's like they suck at developing players for some reason. They get 4 and 5 star players, but they can't damn develop them to save their life. Gus is not a developing coach. I don't know why. But if you give him a good set of teams, he can build you an offense. But if you ask him to develop those players, I just feel like he can't get it done.
Right.
He's just an offensive coordinator in my eyes.
Question mark. Maybe, the year that they did win with Cam, he was the offensive coordinator, correct?
Yeah, he was
Chiswick.
Yeah.
And Chiswick in year one won a national championship. I'm not going to go down that road. How you feel? We've talked about Chiswick a little bit, but I mean, Chiswick looked pretty good as a DC at UNC last few years. I don't know where he's at now, but I mean,
a lot of fans are calling for Lane Kiffin. I don't know.
You never.
I am so not a Lane Kiffin guy, but he has impressed me what he's done at Ole Miss so far this year.
So far, yeah, so far.
Now, the people forget that he's had a couple of head coaching jobs before, and he bumbled them damn things pretty bad.
Yeah.
How did you not win at USC when you was basically the only dominating college in the pack?
I mean, they had a little bit of everybody. I'll never forget him getting fired on the tarmac coming back from one of those up Pacific Northwest schools. I can't remember now. I don't think it was Oregon, but it could have been.
Oh, goodness.
I think they fired him before the big Oregon game, where Coach O then stepped in and put himself on the coaching map. Or was it Sarkisian? No, Sarkisian took over after that, I believe. I'm sorry.
Next up, you have Kentucky at number 18, Tennessee. That game's at 11 a.m. kickoff time, ESPN Network.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Jax went with the Vols. And I'm calling for Kentucky. Kentucky, I think, gets the upset here. I think the Volunteers have proved that they're not as good as they thought they was.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky's a very hungry team.
Absolutely. Coach Stoops.
I think Stoops ends up putting something together, and he gets it done against the Vols today. I don't think it's by much, though. Maybe a touchdown if it's that, So it could go into overtime also.
That's how Kentucky plays, though. If you notice with Stoops being there, they get the big games. But I mean, back in the day, I don't want to say too far back in the day, but years ago, they weren't getting these wins. And with Stoops, he's been able to at least contend in the SEC East, which is still tough because it's the SEC. Now you got Georgia there. You got Florida there. You got, back to relevancy. So all props to him. I don't know if they're going to upset him or not, but this is a huge game for SEC ramifications.
It definitely could be. Next up, you have Navy versus East Carolina, 11 a.m. ESPN2. Anybody that's been watching the show knows that I go with military teams, unless you're playing somebody that I really, really, really pull for. So I got Navy in this one. I think Jax took the same. Yeah, Jax took Navy. Next up, you got Texas Tech at South Alabama, another small game, ESPNU, 11 a.m. I went with Texas State in this one, and Mr. Jax went with Texas State also. Moving along, next up you got South Florida at Temple. Now, let me go ahead and make something clarified if anybody has been watching in the previous weeks. I made a jackass out of myself. Now, this is my own fault. Charlie Strong is not at South Florida.
He's not.
And I remember it now that I've seen it. Charlie Strong is an analyst for the Crimson Tide now. He is not a head coach no more. So that was my dumb mistake. That was for me. That's just, I guess, lack of research on my part, but I really thought he was still there. But after I had seen the other day where someone had mentioned it in one of these chats or something, I was like, oh yeah, I had forgot that he went to Alabama. I remember now, but it's just one of those things. So much information, so many hobbies, so many shows. I mean, I lose stuff after a while.
And the coaching carousel in college this year is a little, obviously, unlike many in the past. So that's a sweep under the rug compared to all the other things that's went on this year. Because I thought he was there myself.
I took Temple in this. Jax took South Florida. I know South Florida looks like they're on a downward spiral. I'll take the Hooten Owls of Temple, I guess. Next up, you got the Liberty at Syracuse. Syracuse is another struggling year, it looks like, for them. They're not getting it done this year, but it's still Syracuse. So they're just a bigger school than Liberty. Probably got better athletes than Liberty does. At least Liberty goes in there and pulls an upset. I don't see it happening. I got Syracuse winning that one.
Can I go the Lee Corso? Not so fast, my friend. Liberty does have the overall fifth, again, the talent. You know, they're playing less talented schools, but Liberty has the fifth best defense overall in the NCAA. So I'm going to say Liberty just because, I mean, we'll see, but they're
he got an upset alert. He's picking Liberty. Shit,
I'm going for them. I love Dino, but I think Liberty may, and that would be a huge win for them.
Well, just to make sure I don't forget, I'm going to write that down.
I definitely want to talk about them just being fifth ranked and then 4-0. And I thought they had lost one or two games, but they were actually 4-0 according to ESPN.
Who's your head coach? Do you know?
I have no iota of a clue. Liberty is trying to get back to the sporting realm, though. Their basketball team wasn't bad last year before all this.
Everybody knows if you can do good at a place like Liberty and get 8 wins or something like that, there's a good chance you'll get a call for a head coaching position somewhere the following year. That's usually how that works.
Yeah, the big gigs. Yeah, big Power 5 conference.
Jax, I'm gonna go ahead and let everybody know Jax did not have no upsets this week. I have a few more, or one more. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next up, Kansas at West Virginia. I'm taking the Jayhawks just because of the simple fact that I think Les Miles is eventually going to put something together there and get some kind of big win. And them beating West Virginia, why it's not a big ranked team, that would be a big win for Kansas. It's terrible as they have been of late.
I think we're right on the fringe outside 20 or a little past 25th. We only got the one loss to OK State, but you got hurt my heart this morning, Tommy. It's very early. If we lose to Kansas, let me just say, oh my God!
I tell you what, if I pick that and I get that shit right,
that's amazing.
I'm like, Jax, call me a pick'em god.
you got to move to Vegas is what you got to do. But let me say real quick, that is something very Mountaineer-esque to look pretty decent through about 3 or 4 games and then just drop a game to Tennessee Tech of Alabama or somewhere. So it wouldn't surprise me, but I know Les isn't there. He isn't traveling with the team. So I don't know if that inspires them or hurts them a little bit, but we'll see. I'm excited for the game.
Next up, you got Army at UTSA. I'm pretty sure the boss man would be going with UTSA on this one, but I picked Army, of course, as I said before, and Mr. Jax followed my lead and went with Army also. Next up, you have Western Kentucky at UAB Blazers. UAB looking to get it together down there. I have to go with UAB. It's just it's a home state pride thing. Me being from Alabama, I have to always pull for little old UAB. They're always trying to get together. Jack's also pick UAB. Next up, you have a big game between Louisville and number 4, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, at 1:30 on NBC.
Yeah.
I had to go with Notre Dame in this one.
Yeah.
I just couldn't pick Louisville in this one. They're just not they're not the Louisville of the past. I can tell you that. They don't have Lamar Jackson there. I can tell you that.
No, not at all. And a different. Their coach right now, I can't remember if he's from UNC or not UNC, but NC State or another school. I can't remember.
You talking about Louisville's head coach?
Louisville's head coach. Who's their head coach?
Oh, they got a damn Joe Paterno from Arkansas over there.
Oh, is he back there? Joe Patino.
Patino. I said Paterno. Damn it, that's the wrong damn Joe. That's the wrong Joe. Excuse me, though. We're not allowed to talk about him in college football anymore.
No. He's stricken from the record books. Is that who they have? I thought they had hired someone else. But anyway, yeah, not the Louisville of old, like you said. Notre Dame looks to be rolling on offense, and they're getting it done defensively. They're beating teams by multiple points. I think they definitely get it done easily. Them and Clemson, it's coming down to that in their first year of the ACC.
Speaking of Lamar Jackson, if you are watching this and you also like the NFL, you can check out through PinFall Productions every Tuesday at 9 p.m. The team here at PinFall Productions bring you the huddle. They have many topics about the NFL, everything from the stats to the power rankings to topics of the week. We'll be right back.
No, there ain't no stopping us. Fly without boarding pass. Couldn't catch me, I be moving fast. Call me a shooting star. Let 'em know who you are. Flying up in a bar. Wish on a star. Time to show 'em who's in charge. Call me a shooting star. Didn't even get to cross.
You can check that out every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Me and William H.D. Morgan, and of course the boss, and until he gets back in spirit,
Real men of genius.
Mr. Bayou Jacks. So we're going to move it on along. Next up, we have Duke at North Carolina State. Duke getting the win last week in a high-scoring game. North Carolina State looking to get a win over Duke. I went with Duke in this one.
I would say, just not knowing a lot about NC State, I would say Duke with Cutcliffe, David Cutcliffe, an offensive sort of a guru. So I'd probably go with Duke there myself.
Next up, that one's on ESPN, by the way, ESPN 3 at 2:30 kickoff time. Next up, you have the mighty fallen of UCF. Well, boys, you ain't got too much to say these days, do you? Versus Memphis, 2:30 kickoff time on ABC. I have to give the Central Florida fans hell. They had a big mouth there for a couple of years.
Oh, yeah. They thought they were on the path of the SEC, I believe. They thought we want Bama, we want Auburn, we want whoever, and now they're gone.
Yeah, now there's not much talking about. They're not talking about them so much anymore. You got them at Memphis, 2:30 kickoff time on ABC. I got Memphis in this one, and I just have to pull for Memphis. Central Florida fans have made me hate a team that I never had a reason to hate.
Right. Well, yeah, cocky teams do that too. Yeah. I actually think I think they will get it done. I just don't know. I know Memphis has struggled a little bit this year. I'm with you and rooting for Memphis, but I think UCF will get it done tonight. Just that conference they play in, it isn't as strong as it has been. And again, I think some of that due to COVID and recruiting and things like that, you ain't getting the athletes that you once had. So UCF, I say they win, but I say I ain't picking them by much, but I think they get a Memphis win.
Right. Next up, you have Ole Miss Rebels. That I guess. Okay, let me go ahead and just say this. I'm gonna try to correct a few things about this. I do not remember when they went back to being called the Ole Miss Rebels. Let's be really, 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 really point on this. They have all of a sudden started calling themselves the Rebels again. I asked the Ole Miss fan not too long ago, "Are y'all back to being the Ole Miss Rebels?" And he told me we never stopped being the Ole Miss Rebels. You are a liar, sir. You are a liar. Y'all were land sharks, and then you were what was it before the land shark? Wasn't it like a bear cat or something, or a bear? Or they changed it like twice. The land shark was the last thing that they were going with. The last thing I remember. Now they're back to being called the Rebels. Whatever you want to call yourself, Ole Miss. Ole Miss, you got Ole Miss versus Arkansas in this game.
Yeah.
Arkansas, as we spoke a little earlier, is 2:30 kickoff time on ESP or on SEC Network. Arkansas was very, very angry after being screwed out of the wind last week, probably versus Auburn. You got Ole Miss, who Lane Kiffin is very, very impressive with his first year, considering he had no recruiting time. He had no training time. He literally walked in, picked up the football team, and went to practice. And they had like a couple of weeks practice, and it was football season.
Yeah.
And they're scoring 40 points a game average, I think it is. It's something like that, at least 40, I know.
He's changing the SEC. He's
changed
and pundits and ESPN personnel, people that report on this, they're seeing that and they're surprised, I believe, because it's just like you said, no time and
it's impressive as hell. Like I said, Auburn fans calling for the hiring of Lane Kiffin at Auburn and booting Gus out the door. I don't know if I'm on board with Lane Kiffin just yet, but
that's what I was going to ask you.
He's definitely a prospect to be looking at because there's not many options. That's the downfall of firing Gus. If you fire Gus, who's left? Who are you going to grab?
Yep.
There's no one. There's no one really. You're going to go get another coach that's going to make you have an average year, just about what Gus is doing. So.
Yeah,
I got Ole Miss in this one. So does Jax. I think Ole Miss puts up big points on Arkansas today. They're very confident too after hanging with Bama some this past week. So
Arkansas gives up about 411 yards per game. Not very good defensively.
Oh my God, Lane Kiffin is going to eat him alive.
Yeah, I looked that up last night, and I just said Ole Miss probably torches them. 411 yards a game. So,
guys, we could see a 70-point game here if Arkansas starts getting lazy because Lane will not take his foot off the gas.
No, he won't. That's
what I love about him. Gus is one of those types that lets his foot off the gas if he thinks he's winning a game, and I don't never get that. Lane shoves it down your throat until the fourth quarter is over.
Yeah.
Next up, you got East Carolina at the mighty Troy Trojans down in Alabama. I'm going with Troy, of course, in this one. It's 2:30 kickoff time, ESPN3. Next up, you got the Fighting Aggies over there at Texas A&M. They have moved up to the number 11 spot, taking on Mississippi State. ESPN. Mississippi State is just not looking impressive now. They were looking pretty impressive at the beginning of the year with all those passes, throwing the ball so many times. It looked like there was going to be a high power scoring offense. They struggled last week. As we've seen, they had 2 points.
Yeah. On an offensive guru like Leach.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. That's what happens when that's why everybody tries to say that sometimes that tit-tat shit don't work in the SEC. These defenses out here know you're going to throw it that many times. They're not even going to prepare for the run. They're going to eat you alive. They're like, hell, you're going to throw it 70 times. Who cares if you get 7 yards rushing,
Your top rusher's going to have 14 yards rushing, but 92 yards receiving. That's how it works there. This is an interesting little game, though. I did want to go over this one game specifically with you on the defensive stats because Mississippi State may have a case here to get only their second win on the season against another ranked team. A&M 39th overall in defense on 178 plays, 1,200 yards, giving up close to seven yards per play and 12 offensive touchdowns. Okay, remember those numbers because Mississippi State is 12th on defense, believe it or not. I mean, again, we've got teams that have yet to play a game that are still coming soon. 202 plays, 857 yards, so 24 more plays and almost 400 more yards, averaging 4.24 yards a game, 7 offensive touchdowns. And here's the key thing right here, because we know what Leach is going to do. We just mentioned it. He's going to throw the ball. They're giving up 400 yards a game. And I think 200 of it is close to 3 is passing. So we'll see about A&M. This could very well be an upset pick. I don't know if I'm going to take them or not, but it's very interesting little nugget of information there.
Yeah, and like I said, it's an SEC game, so it should be good either way. So
yeah,
teams down here have a tendency of beating up on each other a lot. That's why
Very
when
much.
the argument comes into play with, well, this SEC team has 2 losses and this PAC team or this ACC team has 1 loss, why does the SEC team jump them or they get put in? Well, it's simple. If you go look at the top 25, you got at any given time 6, sometimes 7 SEC teams in the top 25 when, and the road games here are just freaking brutal. Having to go into damn Georgia or having to go into Florida or Tuscaloosa or Auburn or Baton Rouge or to College Station or any of that is just hell on earth to try to go in there and get a damn win, man. It's hard as hell.
The best play there, the best play in the SEC.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and that's not me just being biased because I'm from Alabama. To me, I watch a lot of football. I love football in and out. Don't make it damn who it is. They have the best play. Next up, you have UMass at Georgia Southern. I went with UMass on this one, I believe. Yes, I did. Mr. Jacks went with Georgia Southern in this one. This is a 3 o'clock kickoff time, ESPN2. Next up, Virginia at Wake Forest. I went with, I believe, Wake Forest. Yep. And Mr. Jacks went with Virginia, I believe it was. Let me look. Yep, Virginia. 2 struggling ACC teams that are trying to get some wins underneath them.
Yeah.
Next up, North Texas and Middle Tennessee. A game that is to not really be desired too much for. You got North Texas and Middle Tennessee. So I went with North Texas. Mr. Jacks followed my league also on that one. He went with North Texas also. We're going to take 1 second for a small commercial break. If you are free tonight is Saturday, check out Mr. William H.D. Morgan and our friend Mr. Gene the Moose up there in Moose Country, and if you can get with them and get your geek on. We'll be right back. That is the Geek Gauntlet every Saturday at 7 o'clock or 7 p.m. Central Time, I believe it is. I believe that's right. Sorry, guys. Still new. A lot of information taken in. All right, next up. Let's see. What was the last game we was on?
Middle Tennessee.
Middle Tennessee. Let's see.
You picked it. I believe you picked.
Yeah, I went with North Texas, and so did Jacks. That's right. All right. Okay. Next up, you have the Thundering Herd of Marshall taking on Louisiana Tech. I went with Marshall in this game. So did Mr. Jacks.
Really? That's surprising. He went against his homeland to come more into my territory.
Oh my God! They're gonna boo him out of. They're gonna like the pitchfork. They're gonna be showing up at his door with the pitchforks and the iron and be like, You pick you. How dare you? Out of all people,
He's not winning now. He's not winning his election, I don't believe.
thank you, Mr. Boss Man. We try, sir.
This is not. Thank you, Josh. That's appreciate that, man. I want to say something about Marshall really quick because they are impressing me each week, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Herd fan. They've only given up 3 touchdowns on the year. Yeah, they've only played 3 games. 3-0, first in Conference USA East. Then you got Louisiana Tech, 3-1 in the West. So Tech's played 1 more game. That could be a little bit of a factor. Mm-hmm. But we'll see today. I'm excited. Marshall does not turn the ball over. Their quarterback is from Charleston, West Virginia. I forget his name now because they haven't played in about 2-3 weeks, it seems. But just the way they played Appalachian State, watching that game, punching the ball out late on the tight end and then making good on that, knocking time off the clock, and then scoring also. Doc Holliday's got those boys primed and ready. I'm not saying they're a national championship contender or anything like that, but I'm saying we could beat UCF. Bring on UCF.
Yeah, hell yeah. People forget, of course, Marshall used to be a very prestige football school. They've not been in a while. Maybe they can get it back together up over there. That's the 5 o'clock kickoff time on CBS SN, whatever the hell SN is.
Yeah, the CBS Sports Network, I believe.
Yeah, there's so many damn branches now to fit stuff on.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very difficult to keep.
Next up, you have the very shocking, as we spoke earlier, number 5, Tar Heels of North Carolina taking on the struggling Florida State Seminoles. 6:30 kickoff time, ABC, and this was an easy choice. I got North Carolina winning it big against the Tar Heels. Against the Tar Heels, against the Seminoles. I think the Seminoles are going to try to come out and put up some kind of fight in the first quarter, but I just think North Carolina ends up blowing them out. Florida State looks like shit this year.
They really do. I think after week 1 or 2, defensively, their secondary was actually pretty good, even though they were giving up points. They were getting turnovers. And here's an interesting little nugget right here. Mac Brown actually played football at Florida State. He played at Tulane and Florida State. He's never beaten his alma mater, either one. He was 0-3 against Florida State the first time he was at UNC. And he was also 0-3 at Tulane. It couldn't have been when he played, I guess, when he was at Texas. I'm not sure. But anyway, he's never beaten his alma mater. I believe that streak ends today, and he will at least go 1-6 and keep on rolling. Sam Howell's looking good. 69% passing completion percentage, 777 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Here's the only backdraw. He's been sacked a few times, so they need to tighten up on offense. But, man, they turned the ball over too, but it's like they got enough high-octane offense, especially against this Florida State defense, to win. So I'm going to pick Mac Brown also. The Fighting Mac Browns.
The Fighting Mac Browns. At 6:30 kickoff time on ABC. Next game up. That's right. That is the game of the week. The Dogs versus the Tide. That 7 o'clock kickoff time. CBS, number 3 at number 2. For those who not know, Nick Saban tested positive for COVID this week. I heard that he had another test, and that test was clear, but I believe under NCAA rules with the COVID, you have to have 3 tests done, and all 3 have to come back negative. So he will probably not be at this game. And because of that reason and the way that Georgia looks so damn phenomenal this year, where they look like they literally have no holes in their game on either side of the ball, I have to take Georgia here. I think Georgia goes to Tuscaloosa. They get it done. They beat Bama. Bama's going to drop. Georgia's going to move up possibly to the number 1 ranked spot after this week.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. People think that Nick Saban not being there is not going to be a factor. You're full of shit. It's not even just his play calling. It's the intensity that he brings on the sideline with his players. He has a tendency of getting them back into the ball game if they're struggling, and I just don't see – this is going to hurt Bama right here. This might hurt Bama for a few games. I don't know if he can be back by the next week or not, but I love all the little memes I've been seeing, though. You know, I hope Nick Saban is better. I don't wish that shit on no one, not even my worst enemy over at Alabama, but I have been cracking up at the damn memes I've been coming up with the little trolleys with the little – have the tablet sitting on the top of it, and it's got Nick screaming, and the offensive coordinator is all squashed down behind it and stuff. I mean, I've been laughing at them all damn week.
Well, it's funny because it's true. You know, that's how.
Well, they said that they said that he was through a stream during practice, and he was doing it during practice. He was screaming through the stream and making them rerun it again. And
does that surprise you though?
It don't surprise me at all. Nick Saban, why I hate where he coaches, he is the best coach in college football. There's no denying that. He has the rings to prove it. I don't care how he went about getting them. The guy works his ass off to be a good head coach. He has that demeanor. If you go back and you watch, if anybody ever questions how good Nick Saban really is of a coach, if you go back and you watch the Alabama attitude and the Alabama way of before Nick Saban showed up there, like the day he walked up on that podium and he gave that press conference, it was like a snap of a finger change. He put everyone in check. Everyone. He didn't give a damn if you lived off the bear. He didn't give a damn if you had this attitude about this, and this. You're losing right now. Why the hell are you talking shit? It's basically how Nick Saban put it in perspective.
Yeah.
When you start winning, then we can start talking shit again. Until then, shut up.
And they have. You as an Auburn fan can attest to that. You've heard a lot.
Yeah, they were people forget that they sucked for almost 20 years before.
They did. Yeah. What's his name? Mike Shula was a coach there for a little bit, I believe.
Yes, terrible. They went through a coaching carousel there for a long minute. Yeah. They had him and Mike Price, and a few others that came in and out of the door like it was revolving. Mike Shula is a good offensive coach. He's another one of those guys, but he is not a good head coach. He was horrible. That's where Auburn racked up all those wins over Bama that year. But as I said, I got Georgia. Mr. Jacks feels the same. I don't know if that's his hatred for Alabama or if he really believes Georgia's going to beat them, but he's got Georgia also.
Well, if you see how they played against Ole Miss also, with Ole Miss not even that great defensively.
Alabama's got some hoes in her D.
Well, I wanted to read this off to you real quick. Let me find it. It's here, I promise. Give me a second.
Oh, you're fine.
Well, I put the only way possible. I really like Najee Harris, that running back from Alabama. I liked him last year. I think he's a great NFL prospect. But that's the only way if they can tighten the offensive line up a little bit. But Georgia is the number 2 defense overall. Bama 66th after that performance against Ole Miss last week. So you got teams like give me 1 second.
While he go ahead and does that, as we're talking about, there's been a shift in Alabama. Speaking of shift, if you are a wrestling fan, we also have another show for you. It's called The Paradigm Shift. This week, we will be discussing Mr. the Man, Paul Heyman himself. That is the topic for this week. We'll be right back. That is a paradigm shift. Every Wednesday at 9 p.m., you can catch it with me, the boss man of Pinfall Productions, Mr. El Presidento Josh, the Professor Rob, and William H.D. Morgan. And, of course, we all know our spirit guy in spirit, Mr. Bayou Jack. So, move along what you were saying there, bud.
Oh, I apologize. I still got a landline here in 2020. How cute is that?
2020.
But I did want to throw a little bit. I'm not. You mentioned they had the holes in their defense. Alabama, surprisingly 66th overall, with a ton of teams that you would not imagine in front of them. Which, I mean, I know it's very early in the season. Not everybody's got to play their games, but 66 opponents, yards per game, 473 average, and so far 11 touchdowns with 1,419 yards given up on defense. Georgia with an amazing. It seems like Kirby has recruited very well in the backfield, and you got a great receiver there with George. Oh God, I can't think of the last name. You know who I'm talking about? George Pickett. George Pickett.
Yeah.
Looks amazing. Looks phenomenal. Quarterback can run. Quarterback can do a lot of things. And Georgia's defense, we get back to that, second overall. I believe today they take over the number one spot in the SEC, in all of college football. But right now they're definitely dominating the SEC.
Right. Before we get to the last game that we have on the schedule, just a reminder, number 7, Oklahoma State and Baylor was postponed. Also on postponed games, Cincinnati and Tulsa, LSU in Florida, South Mississippi and UTEP, Vanderbilt and Missouri, Florida International, and Charlotte. Our last game that we have on is an ACC game is Boston College at number 23, Virginia Tech. I went with Boston College in this game. Just because, I don't know, as a shot in the dark, I guess.
You know, last week Virginia Tech did play decent with UNC. As a higher scoring game than I think a lot of people thought, but ultimately they didn't get the W. I'm not a Virginia Tech fan. They still are. I think they're 24th or 25th ranked.
Right.
Virginia Tech. But I'm gonna go with you, Mr. Tommy. I'm gonna say Boston College gets it done, the ground game, and they're just one of those tough teams. They're a tough team unless they're playing like a Clemson or somebody else in ACC supremacy, and I don't see Virginia Tech being that right now. Right. And I messed up last week in picking them, so I ain't picking them again. I don't like them anyway. But I'm going to say Boston College gets it done 21-17. I'm even going to throw a score out there. Probably wrong. I'm wrong a lot. I'm not afraid to admit that, but that's what I'm rolling with.
I get them wrong all the time. Jax is good at getting them wrong.
He's the best, ain't he? He's one of the best.
He's actually, I think, ahead of me by a few.
Mm-hmm.
He's not too ahead of me, but he's a little bit ahead of me.
Right. I forgot to mention on UNC. They look pretty decent defensively. They've turned the ball over a lot, though. And the turnover, I know we weren't even talking about that. We were talking about Virginia Tech last. But I wanted to mention this kid. I think his name is Christian Surratt. I could be wrong on the first name, but it's Surratt. 3 sacks for him, and Fox on the defensive line. I want to say Isaiah Fox, maybe.
That sounds about right.
3 sacks apiece for those boys so far. So UNC, I'm excited for this game because, like you, I'm not a Florida State fan. Want to see it put on them as much as possible, and I think it happens tonight. But man, we got some good games for.
We do.
This week.
A lot of good ones. Lots of good ones. That's what I love about college football. There's so many teams, so you end up getting so many good games when it falls in that right little and you'll end up with like sometimes 10 awesome games on a Saturday sometimes, instead of just having like where NFL has like 2, you know.
Yeah. That may turn into something good, but usually not. It's usually a blowout.
Right.
Talking about blown calls again, good Lord. We could do a whole podcast on just the screwy refereeing in the NFL, I believe, and come out 3-hour podcasts with just crank them out weekly.
I'm trying to bring up our next segment, but I'm having some issues here. I will not do this again. I'll make sure I have this wrote down before next time.
Technical difficulties and things like that happens. We don't blame Tommy for any of this. He's wired and tired right now, probably.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But the work the man puts into the projects, it's undeniable. We see it on the. You guys do editing. You take it to a whole nother level. I love that. I love all these packages for the podcast. I did want to say that tonight we got the show with what's the name of the show again? I don't want to get it wrong now. It's
which one?
With William and who was it? William and
the Gene? Yeah, Geek Gauntlet. Come on and run the gauntlet. They cover all kinds of stuff, everything from like comic books to
it's very cool
shows.
Stuff.
And I think he was William, and they get into pretty deep, like good discussions too. Like I think they were covering one week something about like the women and something. So they actually bring real like intelligent content to it. It's just not about like what kind of bones did the Wolverine have. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, exactly.
They actually bring some real good content to it. So it's
Geek Gauntlet tonight around 7 p.m. 7:30.
That is correct. 7.
I will be watching boxing, but don't be surprised if I got my phone out, guys, and rooting you on.
Rooting you on. Let's see. I cannot find what I need to find. So
as your body grows big, your mind must fly.
I'll give you some knowledge that I know personally, since I can't find nothing. On this date in history in 2004. We're going to go ahead and pull it up just to make sure I'm 100% right, because I don't like giving false information like Charlie Strong being at South Florida.
Well, that's a little nugget I needed. I thought he was still there myself.
That made me feel like a jackass. Let's see here. We're 1 day off to the date, so I don't care. This time in 2004, the undefeated no, they weren't undefeated that year. They lost one game, I think it was. Auburn played Arkansas on October the 16th at 2:30 p.m. This took place in Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Auburn got the win 38-20. They had 87,451 fans here. Took place on CBS. This was Auburn's big year. That they had this big year run, and they got screwed out of going to the national championship.
Was that Jason Campbell as quarterback and Tommy Tuberville, or was that the year prior?
No, this is Campbell. You had Jason Campbell in this game alone. He had this was a season's, I think. He had 20 touchdowns that season. He had 188 completions for 270 attempts. Jason Campbell was great at Auburn that year.
He was. He's the last. I know. Well, we've had Cam since him, but Jason Campbell was something special that I seen early on. Great team, great, phenomenal.
This
team.
was the year also that Brandon Cox was our backup. You had let's see who was on that defensive team that year, man. I remember that they had some good defensive players. David Irons. This was the year that we also had Kenny Irons as a running back.
Mm-hmm.
You had Patrick Lee. Let's see here. I could have swore they had a real big name on there that year. besides Jason Campbell, which I really wouldn't call him a big name. He was definitely a flop in the NFL, but
yeah, just a couple different.
But to me, sometimes that was just the teams he was on. He was always being put in bad situations.
It was, yeah. I think he was in Oakland, Washington, probably somewhere else. Just teams that haven't really been relevant since early 2000s when he was at college.
Just to mention a couple other teams that year, just for shit and giggles, just to show some people how far they've come along. Alabama went 6-6 that year.
Not surprising.
LSU went 9-3. Tennessee was actually on top of the East at this time. They were their overall record ended up being 10-3. They were 7-1 in the conference. Georgia was pretty horrible that year. They went 4-4 in the conference. And of course, what's funny about these stats, if you go back and look at old stats, the things you can't help but giggle about, the bottom teams are always Kentucky and Vanderbilt.
Always, yes. That finally Kentucky, Vanderbilt's still there. Kentucky just in the recent 5 years or so trying to get out of obscurity with Mark Stoops. And it's working somewhat. I know he wants more for that program.
This was back when the BCS went on. This is not during playoff time. We didn't have playoffs.
Yeah.
A lot of teams got screwed. One reason I brought this year up, what made this year so sweet for Auburn, and what made this year, I felt like it was like karma coming back around for fairness. Oregon also got screwed that year, and going to the national championship. A lot of people felt because the BCS, the way they did the points, then it was weird,
very strange.
It was very strange the way they did it. You had actually two teams with losses that went to the national championship that year, and you had Oregon and Alabama, and Oregon and Auburn, where Oregon had one loss. It was to a top team, and Auburn had 0 losses, and they got screwed out of going. So when 2010 rolled around and Auburn and Oregon met in the national championship, I was like, okay, this was the comeback around. This is us getting back what we got. Both teams got screwed out of back in 2004. Because both teams should have went and end up being like an Ohio State team or someone like that. One of those favorite BCS teams that always got put in the position to win stuff. So
one of my all-time favorite national championship games also, may I add. I really, the way it ended for you guys on that run at the end, phenomenal. It was great.
I was nervous that whole national championship, man. It was terrible, man. Because they just didn't look like the Auburn of the season. They looked like they had been sluggish or something, or they already thought they won it and we won it. Thank God for Wes Byram. That's all I got to say. That the guy saved our ass so many damn time. He probably ain't making nowhere near the money Cam is making now. But he saved our ass in that national championship. If it wasn't for him, Cam wouldn't have had a ring on his finger. So. Because he definitely went in there and choked. Well, guys, that's it. We're going to go ahead and wrap it on up. Just a small break from our sponsor. That is PinFall Productions. If you have an idea and you have a podcast that you would like to try to get launched off the ground, hit us up at PinFall. We can try to help you with that. Well, catch us next week at 8 a.m. Central Time. Well, me and Mr. Justin Hicks here will be breaking down the next week's football game. Thank you, Justin, for coming on, taking time, bud.
Oh, man, I love it. I love coming on here. Thank you for having me. War Eagle.
It's Way Eagle. It's Way Eagle. See the W-A-E? Way Eagle.
See, I didn't even look at that. It's just in my blood.
Let's hope they get it done. Till next week, folks.